Before dawn on day 30 of Operation Epic Fury, bombs struck 3 neighborhoods in Tehran, leaving civilians dead. Hours later, the USS Tripoli and 3,500 Marines moved into striking range of Iran's coast. 4 foreign ministers convened an emergency summit in Islamabad, and Tehran threatened to abandon the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. What happened on March 29th may decide whether this war stays contained, or spirals beyond anyone's control. Dawn broke over Tehran to the sound of explosions and sirens. In Shaft City, 2 civilians lay dead, and 5 more were rushed from the rubble, their injuries overwhelming the local clinic. Sadat Abad, a residential district in the north, saw 3 wounded as glass and debris tore through apartment blocks. On the western edge of the city, 9 more people were pulled from damaged homes, some barely conscious as first responders worked against time. Emergency crews faced a crush of calls, their radios crackling with reports of fires and blocked roads. At the same hour, the Parchin complex, long linked to Iran's military industry, was struck, sending a plume of smoke above the city's outskirts. Hospitals across Tehran reported shortages of blood and medical supplies, with doctors warning that the true toll could rise as more casualties arrive. For many, the distinction between military and civilian targets blurred in the chaos. As the dust settled, the urgency for a diplomatic solution grew more acute, with leaders across the region watching Tehran's battered streets and weighing their next moves. In Islamabad, diplomatic efforts pressed forward, even as the war's reach expanded. Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar convened foreign ministers from Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia for a 2-day summit. The agenda was clear: seek a halt to hostilities and keep vital shipping lanes open. With the Strait of Hormuz largely closed to most vessels, Dar announced a limited breakthrough, an agreement allowing 20 additional Pakistani-flagged ships to transit the strait at a pace of 2 per day. Though modest by global standards, this corridor offered a critical lifeline for Pakistan's energy and trade flows, and signaled a rare diplomatic opening amid the blockade. Behind closed doors, the ministers reviewed a 15-point U.S. peace proposal relayed by Pakistan, including demands for Iran to dismantle its nuclear program and surrender some control of the strait. Turkey's Hakan Fidan and Egypt's Badr Abdelhadi backed the push for de-escalation, while Saudi Arabia's delegation arrived late, reflecting the region's cautious approach. No joint statement emerged, but the summit underscored the urgent search for alternatives to continued confrontation. USS Tripoli's arrival in the Central Command Theater brings the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit into immediate operational reach of the Gulf. The force, numbering 3,500 Marines and sailors, stands equipped for a spectrum of missions. Its aviation element fields F-35B stealth fighters, MV-22B Osprey tiltrotors, and heavy-lift helicopters, giving commanders the ability to launch precision strikes or rapid air assaults without relying on land bases. The ground combat element, an infantry battalion with integrated support, can conduct amphibious raids, seize key coastal sites, or secure vital infrastructure such as oil terminals and shipping lanes. Logistics teams are prepared to sustain operations ashore for up to 2 weeks, supporting both combat and humanitarian tasks. With the Strait of Hormuz under threat and Karg Island's oil facilities within reach, planners weigh scenarios ranging from targeted raids to full-scale evacuations of U.S. nationals or allied personnel. The Marine Expeditionary Unit's presence signals that hard power options remain on the table, even as diplomats in Islamabad search for a pause. Every maneuver now carries the risk of further escalation, complicating both military calculations and diplomatic bargaining. Inside Iran's parliament, Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf stood before lawmakers and warned that an American-led ground invasion could be imminent. His remarks, broadcast on state media, landed with the weight of both a threat and an admission. Ghalibaf, a former Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps commander, called for unity and readiness, framing the moment as a test of national resolve. Behind closed doors, reports circulated of confusion within the upper ranks. Several senior leaders remained unaccounted for after last night's strikes, fueling speculation about gaps in the chain of command. Parliamentary sessions grew tense as hardliners pressed for immediate retaliation, while others questioned whether the government could maintain control if the conflict spilled further into urban centers. Galibaf's public stance took on added significance, with his voice filling a vacuum left by missing or silent officials. The warning signaled not just external danger, but also the internal strain now gripping Tehran's leadership. Political uncertainty at the top was beginning to ripple through the security apparatus, raising the prospect of more aggressive moves in the hours ahead. A new threat now shadows the region's academic centers. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has delivered a direct ultimatum to 3 foreign-linked campuses: Texas A and M University at Qatar, Northwestern University in Qatar, and New York University, Abu Dhabi. The message is stark: halt all in-person activity and evacuate foreign faculty and students by midnight, March 30th, or face unspecified consequences. Official statements from the host governments remain measured, but security patrols have increased around the campuses, and emergency protocols are being reviewed behind closed doors. Students and staff scramble to arrange flights as rumors spread of potential attacks or hostage scenarios. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps warning expands the battlefield far beyond the front lines, placing civilian institutions and international partnerships in the crosshairs. With the deadline approaching, the sense of urgency is palpable. For families and administrators, every hour brings new uncertainty, as the threat of violence now hangs over what were once safe havens for education and cross-cultural exchange. Overnight, critical infrastructure across the Gulf came under attack, sending shockwaves through regional economies already on edge. In Kuwait, a blaze erupted at the main fuel tank farm near the international airport. State media confirmed emergency crews fought the fire for hours, and the Ministry of Oil warned of potential supply disruptions if further strikes occurred. In Bahrain, the Alba aluminum smelter, one of the world's largest, reported extensive damage after a suspected drone hit its power substation. Operations were suspended, and the Ministry of Interior announced heightened security at all industrial sites. The United Arab Emirates faced its own crisis as an aluminum facility in Abu Dhabi suffered structural damage from a low-flying projectile. Air raid sirens sounded across the city, and authorities activated emergency protocols for the first time since the conflict began. These incidents forced Gulf governments to issue joint statements condemning the attacks and promising swift repairs, but the economic impact was immediate. Energy shipments slowed, commodity prices spiked, and insurance rates for regional shipping soared. With each new strike, the war's footprint pressed deeper into the arteries of commerce, raising the specter of wider cross-border escalation in the days ahead. In Erbil, a missile struck the residence of Nuclear Barzani, president of the Kurdistan region of Iraq, just after midnight. The blast tore through the compound's main wing, shattering windows and scattering debris across the courtyard. Barzani was unharmed, but several staff members suffered minor injuries. Kurdish security forces quickly locked down the area, fearing follow-up attacks. Within hours, Baghdad issued a sharp condemnation, calling the strike an act of aggression against Iraqi sovereignty, and demanding an emergency session of parliament. Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani warned that any escalation targeting Kurdish leaders risked destabilizing Iraq as a whole. The attack rattled the fragile power-sharing arrangement in the north, with Kurdish parties accusing regional adversaries of exploiting the wider war to settle old scores. As the news spread, checkpoints tightened across Erbil and Sulaymaniyah, and Iraqi army units moved closer to disputed border zones, bracing for possible unrest. Iran's foreign ministry delivered a pointed warning to the international community. If attacks on nuclear-related sites continue, Tehran will initiate procedures to leave the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. The announcement came hours after inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, confirmed that despite extensive damage at several monitored facilities, no radioactive material had leaked into the environment. Still, the International Atomic Energy Agency stressed that its verification teams require urgent, unrestricted access to all affected sites to confirm the status of Iran's nuclear stockpiles and centrifuge operations. The agency's checklist includes physical inspection of storage vaults, real-time video surveillance review, and immediate interviews with on-site engineers. Without these measures, global confidence in Iran's nuclear transparency cannot be guaranteed. The prospect of Iran's withdrawal from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, unprecedented in the treaty's history, raises the risk that safeguards could collapse overnight, erasing decades of international oversight and opening the door to unchecked proliferation across the region. Tonight, as Marines land near Iran and Islamabad's summit seeks restraint, escalation and negotiation collide in real time. With Tehran's nuclear exit threat and fresh strikes from the Gulf to Iraq, the region stands on a knife's edge. It is proof that every hour now shapes the next decade.